These two phones, depending on where you buy them, come in at a very similar cost, but offer slightly different benefits, which makes them a really interesting comparison if you ask me. This is the hot new OnePlus 13R versus last year's OnePlus 12. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, and the first big difference between these two is that pricing is only really similar if you're buying the 12 secondhand or at a discount, not at MSRP. So the 13R has the immediate advantage of offering better warranty service if you're comparing to the 12 on the used market, and it benefits from having one more year of version updates, since it's a whole year newer. So off to a flying start for the 13R. Under the hood, they're pretty similar, to be honest. They rock the same SoC, the flagship Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 from last year. But where the 13R is limited to 256 or 512 gig of storage, you can actually buy models that are 1TB of the OnePlus 12, and they come with more RAM as you go up those storage SKUs too. In the real world, these are pretty much neck and neck in terms of performance. I cannot tell the difference really between them. They both use the new UFS 4.0 storage standard and OxygenOS's super zippy animations, so they feel really fast. Probably some of the fastest on the market in terms of feel in the hand, even if the 8 Elite really does surpass them. If you're a bit of a mobile gamer or get a lot done on your phone, these are some of the best ones you can buy for the money. But don't worry, the differences between these two do start to appear after the performance section, because one's clearly square and the other is very rounded. This has sparked much debate online, and it's looking like more people actually prefer the flat sides and the flat panel of the 13R, not only because it eliminates pretty much all of the phantom touches that I've personally experienced with the OnePlus 12, but also because applying screen protectors is just way easier on a display that doesn't have massive curves on the side, especially those made of glass, which can create annoying little air bubbles on curved displays if you're anything other than perfect in application. I think most people are going to prefer the 13R's design, especially with the more toned down aesthetic on the back with fewer logos. The whole camera thing's been cleaned up. It's still a giant camera bump, and I don't think everyone's going to love it, but I'd have to say that in terms of design, what people are really going to like, the 13R probably wins it. Now, if you're not using a case, I personally find the 12 to just feel a little bit nicer in the hand, sort of curves to your hand a bit better, but this is subjective and your opinion might differ. Thankfully though, both have OnePlus's stable alert slider, which I personally really like. They're both IP65 rated. I've used my 12 in the rain for basically an entire year. I live in Britain, so it rains practically every single day, and it survived absolutely fine. I've also rocked it without a screen protector or a case, so the IP65 rating, at least on the 12, is a pretty good one. The panels themselves are interesting. So the 12's is higher resolution and gets slightly brighter in HDR content. But outside of that, I found the 13R's panel to get just a hair brighter in everyday content, SDR, scrolling around your phone, that kind of thing. They're both huge 120Hz displays. They're great for consuming content on the go, but more so with the 13R in games specifically because where there might be elements like controls right at the edge of the display, they're just easier to access on a totally flat panel where they can be a bit fiddly with the OnePlus 12's curved edges. I think the 13R's panel's overall better just because it's flatter, and I'm not a nit nerd, shout out Caleb Dennison, so the extra resolution and the HDR brightness of the 12 just isn't worth it for me. Both fingerprint scanners are optical instead of ultrasonic, which you'll find on the 13, and so are comparatively slow and sort of not very good, but actually in their own right, they're not too bad. And again, I use the OnePlus 12 all the time, and I found the fingerprint scanner to be pretty decent. But if you are directly comparing with an ultrasonic, it just seems like a different league. And in battery life, I'm sure many of you have already researched the specs of these bad boys, so you'll know that the 13R has a 6,000 mAh battery, which is over 10% larger than what you'll find in the 12. And additionally, if you're buying a OnePlus 12 used, there's going to be a little bit of battery degradation already tuned in there as well. So you just have to give the battery life, the longevity to the 13R, especially given it uses the same chip and so likely draws very similar power numbers. Both of these phones can be 2-day phones if you want them to be, but the 13R is more likely to be just because of its extra milliamp hours in the battery. That said, I've had some truly phenomenal battery life out of my 12, with buds connected for an hour a day, my Garmin connected over Bluetooth. The OnePlus devices this year and last year, fantastic on battery. But things swing back the other way when you start talking about topping up, because whilst the 13R does support up to 80-watt charging, but actually takes just under an hour to charge because of the way that OnePlus has included its silicon carbon battery and the way that it specifically implemented it on the 13R versus the 13, it's just a bit slower to charge. And despite that glass back, there's actually no wireless charging, which is a bit of a shame to those who use that. Now, I think for most people, this is going to be absolutely fine. Most people charge their phone overnight on their bedside stand. It's not going to make a difference to you, but if you really do like OnePlus's super fast charging, not only does the OnePlus 12 come with the 100-watt brick in the box for every region, or 80 watts in America, and tops up 0 to 100 in less than half an hour, it's great, but it also does have 50-watt wireless charging. So if that's your kind of thing and you've got the appropriate wireless charging pad, that is going to be a benefit to you. I think the total battery package of the 12 might just exceed the 13R, but again, it's all going to be down to what you want out of your phone. Do you want something that lasts longer or something that's going to top up quicker? You really do have the choice here. Both run Android 15, and as I said earlier, the 13R being the newer device means it benefits from having just a bit more software support left in the tank. 4 version upgrades plus 2 years of security patches, where the OnePlus 12 has 3 versions left and an additional year of security patches. In the real world, it means the 13R is more viable for 6 years as opposed to 4, and whether that matters to you or not is going to depend how often you upgrade your smartphone. If you're upgrading every 24 or 36 months, then this comparison just means nothing to you basically. The cameras are where these two really do differ, where they differentiate themselves. They're all different here, every sensor. So the 12 has a slightly bigger main sensor, a considerably larger ultra-wide, and a way more powerful telephoto. Even a bigger and higher resolution selfie shooter if that's what you're into. I understand that a fair few OnePlus customers aren't actually looking for the best camera on the market, like that is not their highest priority. And in that case, I think you're going to be absolutely fine with the OnePlus 13R. The first major difference between these two is that the 12 has the Hasselblad indoors color tuning, where the 12 does not, and so the difference in tones and contrast might sway you either way. For most people, this is going to be pretty nitpicky, but for us enthusiasts, there is a greater difference there. Outside of the main camera in good light, it's actually the ultra-wide and long-range lenses that really pull these things apart. And are maybe the biggest giveaway that one is a mid-ranger or a flagship killer and the other is an out-and-out flagship. If you like to pinch in and out, there's a clear winner, the OnePlus 12, and perhaps the biggest reason I would have it over the 13R, but the 13R has been surprisingly good this year, and honestly I can't rule it out. It's just not quite at the level of the OnePlus 12. If of these two phones, all you care about is performance, battery life, build quality, and having the most software support possible, the 13R is a great phone, despite the $100 price hike in last year's model. And I know people already really like the design, which is decidedly different from recent OnePlus phones, to be honest. And why I'd pick the 12? Well, one, I'm already using it, seems easy enough, but also simply the charging speed, the curved sides, which I prefer, but again, you might not. Those cameras, I think that's a big deciding factor. And I also don't mind buying used, and that's going to be a stumbling block for some. It's going to be an obvious choice to go for the 13R with that in mind. The similarities in performance, display quality, having the alert slider, even the price, make this comparison closer than I would have initially thought, and I think both phones make a case for being tremendous devices. I don't think you can really go wrong with either, but for me it's the 12. I got to hear from you guys on this one. Which of these two would you have gone with, would pick, or would you not pick either? Let me know in the comments section. I really do like what OnePlus is doing this year, as much as people have taken some of my individual comments out of context. We have more comparisons coming, by the way, so stay tuned for those. Hit subscribe, hit like if you enjoyed today's content as well. Thank you all so much for watching. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I'll catch you later. Cheers.